Ukraine has paused a planned swap of bodies of soldiers killed in action, as agreed during peace talks with Russia in Istanbul this week, the Russian Defense Ministry claimed on Saturday. According to Alexander Zorin, first deputy head of the Information Directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, refrigerated trucks carrying over 1,200 bodies of Ukrainian troops from Russia had already reached the exchange site at the border. He claimed Ukrainian officials did not confirm the exchange and postponed it indefinitely. According to Associated Press on Monday, at a meeting in Istanbul that made little progress towards ending the war, Russian and Ukrainian negotiators agreed to swap 6,000 bodies of soldiers killed in action and to set up a commission to exchange seriously wounded troops. Ukraine's coordination headquarters for prisoners of war, the main authority dealing with the swaps, said in a statement that Russia's statements do not correspond to reality and previous agreements, neither regarding the exchange of prisoners nor regarding the repatriation of bodies. Ukraine has submitted lists to conduct the exchange based on an agreement made in the last round of direct talks in Istanbul, the statement said. The list was based on categories agreed upon during the talks, including the seriously wounded and seriously ill, as well as young POWs. But the Russian side submitted lists that do not correspond to that agreed approach, the statement said. An agreement was also reached about repatriating dead bodies, but the date was not set, the statement said.
Колонна первой партии подлежащих репатриации тел военнослужащих прибыла в район обмена. В колонне 1212 тел находится. Готовится к отправке в ближайшее время еще 3 эшелона, в каждом по 1200 тел, и 1 автомобильный эшелон, в котором также будет 1200 тел. Общая цифра составит более 6000 человек. К сожалению, украинская сторона не подтвердила проведение обмена сегодня и перенесла его на неопределенный срок. Что касается обменов военнопленных, то мы передали украинской стороне список из 640 фамилий, однако украинская сторона пока воздерживается от назначения даты возвращения этих лиц и передачи нам соответствующего количества военнопленных российских военнослужащих.
June is turning into an ill-fated month for Russia's armed forces, with a daring Ukrainian drone attack on airfields stretching from Siberia in the east to Murmansk in the north that Ukraine claims destroyed 41 large planes, or about 1/3 of Russia's strategic bomber fleet. Before the month ends, Russia will probably suffer its millionth casualty since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, based on current trends of about 1,000 to 1,200 soldiers killed or injured every day. No Soviet or Russian war since World War II has even come close to Ukraine in terms of fatality rate, said the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a think tank in Washington. Ukraine has sustained nearly 400,000 casualties, it added, with between 60,000 and 100,000 deaths. In the northeastern Kharkiv region, Russian forces have advanced on average of only 50 meters per day, according to the study. That is slower than the British and French advance in the Battle of the Somme in the trench warfare of World War I. The slow rate of advance has meant Russia has seized only 1% of Ukrainian territory since January 2024, which the authors called a paltry amount. Russia now occupies around 20% of Ukrainian territory, including the Crimean Peninsula that Moscow annexed in 2014. But Russia's dwindling territorial gains have not led to a change in strategy. To sustain Russia's staggering rate of casualties, the Kremlin has enlisted convicts from its prisons and welcomed more than 10,000 troops from its ally North Korea. But it has left the children of Moscow and St. Petersburg elites largely untouched. Increased sanctions on Russia and continuing US and European military assistance to Ukraine would likely raise the costs for Moscow of a protracted war and could facilitate peace talks. Russia's poor performance has likely been caused by several factors. The Russian military's reliance on dismounted infantry and mechanized forces to take Ukrainian territory, Russia's failure to use operational fires in a coordinated way that enables maneuver, and Ukraine's effective utilization of defense in depth. For the United States, increased sanctions on Russia and continuing US and European military assistance to Ukraine would likely raise the costs for Moscow of a protracted war and could facilitate peace talks. Likewise, in the fall of 2022, Ukraine conducted multiple successful offensives. After the incredibly successful Ukrainian Operation Web, Russia flew the surviving aircraft as far away from Ukraine as possible. One of the strategic missile carriers was driven all the way to Chukotka, the maximum distance from Ukraine, writes military analytical portal Defense Express. Analysts have drawn attention to recent satellite images of the military airbase and at the same time the civilian airport Anadyr in Chukotka. A publicly available image from the ESA Sentinel satellite on June the 4th shows that a fairly large aircraft has appeared on the military part of the airfield. Although the resolution of the image leaves much to be desired, the object was still identified as a Tu-160 strategic missile carrier. It was identified by its 55.7-meter wingspan and the characteristic shape of its fuselage. As analysts note, in recent months, the Russians have not used this airbase to park strategic missile carriers. Even on June the 2nd, the day after Operation Spiderweb, there were no Tu-60s there. Defense Express links the appearance of the aircraft at this airbase directly to Ukrainian strikes on Russian strategic aviation airfields. The Anadyr airbase is located 6,600 kilometers from Ukraine and only 500 from the United States, but getting there will only become possible somewhere closer to the 1930s, the experts write. They note that at this airbase, the aircraft is protected from sabotage, not so much by the maximum distance from Ukraine, but by the lack of roads that would connect the city of Anadyr with the rest of the Russian territory. This means that a truck with Ukrainian drones simply won't get there. This city is completely dependent on sea and air support. The practical use of even strategic aviation aircraft from such a remote airbase for strikes on Ukraine is more than questionable. Moreover, the very use of the Tu-160 for long-range strikes on Ukraine is not just episodic, but a rare occurrence, the analysts write. Defense Express also saw a certain irony in the fact that it is now safer for a Russian aircraft to be 500 kilometers from the United States than 1,700 kilometers from Ukraine.